and welcome to the Painted Bride Quarterly Slush Pile. We're so excited to be here today. I'll start with me, since I already have the mic. So I'm Kathleen Volk-Miller, and I'm here in the studio at Drexel University, and we are about to bring to you our podcast, which is editors reading work that has been submitted to Painted Bride Quarterly, talking about it, and then voting on it, so that you can hear what goes on behind the scenes once you submit your work. Or if you're a reader, you'll know why it ended up in our pages. So I'm very excited to say that Marion is in the room with us in the studio. Woohoo!
I'm so happy that you can actually see me and that I'm in your time zone in sunny Philadelphia. This is Marion, co-editor. Co is not the right attribute though, because we're all.
I think that's right.
Is it because all of us co-ing together?
We're all co.
No, I'm associate. I'm an associate editor. You are editors.
But we're community and co-legal.
And we have a co-op.
And the co-op is sitting to my left.
I just did my tenure application, so I've been very concerned with what everyone is named.
Hierarchy and nomenclature is like getting gum out of your fucking hair. Next to me is Britt.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Britt.
Oh, that's all I have to say.
Let's do it in this direction. Let's go all the way out west. Who's out there in Portland, Oregon for a week?
Hello from the West Coast at 8:30 a.m. I'm Samantha, and I work at NYU Abu Dhabi with Marion, usually in Abu Dhabi.
But there you are, out west.
Out west.
Yes.
Our West Coast representative.
Yep, for the week. And up in New York.
Oh, hi, it is Jason Schneiderman. I am at my lovely desk in Tribeca, at the Borough of Manhattan Community College, where there are no windows and lovely temperature control. So I am safely protected from the terrible humidity and weather outside right now. It's so hot.
Yeah. So you're chilling. You're chilling.
I am
got a sweater. You need a
chilling.
sweater.
I am happily chilling.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Good for you. It's very hot here in the Northeast. We are going to jump right in. Because we have 3 poems by one author. Her name is Micheline Maylor. And I think I'm going to keep the mic and just take this one. Okay. So here we go. Here's a poem. Micheline Maylor. It's called Your Motto. Then there's an epigraph. I told you once I love you. If anything changes, I'll let you know. John Wayne. Yeah, that does deserve a laugh.
That's good.
Okay, so your motto. I told you once I love you. If anything changes, I'll let you know. John Wayne. I couldn't stay faithful after New Year's Eve. All those aggressive philosophy majors and tequilas shot. You and me like the stuffed bears in our son's room, propped up in corners, staring, neglected, a bit dusty. What was to be done after that party? All my switches flipped, a fuse box shutting down, click by click. Time to wrap it up, kids. Last call, last song. And I'm sitting here in my corner now, hearing you say, what did you want me to do? Punch the guy? No. I wanted you to love me so hard that he never asked if I would go home with him. I wanted you to love me, but you were too busy laughing.
Nice reading. Yeah.
It was fun to read.
Yeah. And I love your no. Because to my eye, it would have been like, no. No,
but she does 3 periods.
Great.
No.
Right.
Right.
That's exactly, that's
Yep.
right. You read the script beautifully.
That happened to me once.
What did it?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, not at a party, but I was visiting. I had a boyfriend a long time ago wanted me to go with him to Boston, and when we got there, like his friend spent the entire time hitting on me, which was sort of flattering, but also like, would you please notice?
Yeah.
Like, dude, like, would you please just notice? It was very odd.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
But yeah,
That's always
I love this. I thought this is fantastic.
That's
yeah,
a duality too, right? That's always a contradiction that you want your partner to have some jealousy, awareness, something like that, right? But you would never want somebody telling you what to do. Don't talk to that guy, right? Then you'd take offense, right?
Yeah, like, but just note it, just don't take me for granted.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just here, like. Yeah, pay attention. No, I mean, I'm that line. I wanted you to love me so hard that he never asked.
Yeah, that's the best part for me
perfect,
too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No, I love
that he would never even think that I might. But
and the turn is so fantastic. It's so well constructed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can I never do this. Loyal listeners will know that I'm usually like Pollyanna Kathy. Like, I love this. I wish there weren't stuffed bears. Can I say that? I wish there weren't stuffed bears.
Yeah, I feel Kathy. I feel the same way.
What is it? It's just that there's such a why are we having this aversion, Sam?
I don't know. I mean, well, for me too, I guess they're just inanimate objects. Like, they're not like players, and like the two I assume the two partners here are like, they're active, like they're making decisions. They're players here in this story.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think for me, it's specifically that bear. It just seems like such an easy object to parallel oneself with, the stuffed animals in the kids' room. Like, I don't know. It's a little on the nose or something.
Well, it's a little jarring to go from I couldn't stay faithful after the party, right? To we are like stuffed bears in our kids' room, right? And so the driving image, the driving metaphor is we are like these stuffed bears.
Mm-hmm.
We're frozen and kind of dead now.
Right. Well, and I get it. Yeah. I certainly get the metaphor.
For me, it's jarring to go from something fucking happened at that party and now we're stuffed bears. And it's like the delivery of the information is part of what makes the bears seem a little...
Right. Right. We had tequila shot and then we have this stuffed bears.
I think the image doesn't work for me because I think it's supposed to be an image of something that you're really excited about and really love deeply when you first get it. And then you kind of outgrow or take for granted and ignore. But I like my relationship to my stuffed bears remains very intense.
Dude, I'm all about transitional objects. I'm with you. I like a stuffed bear.
Also, can I ask, shouldn't it be tequila shots? Why is it tequila's shot? Like, is that a cockpit editing thing I don't know about?
I think I don't know. I'm just going to trust that she did that intentionally. And I don't know. It's kind of cool. I mean, I noticed it. I think Joe, like when you take a shot, a tequila. I mean, for me, tequila is my mind eraser. Joe, pitch it. Chime in.
I thought it was like Cupid's bow. Like, this is tequila's shot.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just like if you drink a bottle of tequila, it's kind of like shooting yourself in the head.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So the tequila's shot, meaning it's gone or it is hurting you, and it's what I mean. Like, but it's
the tequila has its own shot. Yeah, it's like a shot. Yeah.
Right.
I think it's intentional. And to be honest, it stopped me, but I dug it. I dug thinking about it that way. Yeah.
But there's the thing. It's like, it stopped me, but I dug it. And then teddy bears.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, that points in like a couple of different directions there. Mm-hmm.
And I like the fuse box imagery.
Me too. So because
that does what the bears for me, like, is doing already.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fuse box is so meaningful because it's like I'm shutting down, the electricity's gone, like all of those things. I like the fuse box.
But I also like this, right? Like click by click, last call, last song, no. Like the universe of the pacing of the poem is great, but the universe of the images of the poem seems a little scrambled. Like I can't get how they quite rhyme or cohere.
The only thing I don't like is the stuffed bears.
Yeah.
Maybe it is simply that. I think it is more than that, to be honest. But I don't think it's just going from tequila to the bears or the party to the room. I think that like every movie you ever see that involves a family or whatever, like there's a pan of the kids' room and there's bears on the shelf. Like there's just, that's what I meant about easy. It's an easy thing
Familiar.
to point
But here's my question though, like, and I'm sitting here in my corner now hearing you say, like, it's not just the image of the bears, it's the whole poem is them as bears, right? Like that, I'm sitting here in my corner, right? Like you and me like stuffed bears in our son's room propped up in corners. And I'm sitting here in my corner. I'm reading that as like she's personified them as bears. So that like the conversation is like, you're talking to me like we're bears. You know what I mean? Like
I don't go quite that far. I hear you, but I don't keep them in bear mode.
The bears are talking to each other.
No, I don't. But okay.
I think we can get back to the rest of the poem. Like I think that there's an image that we don't like in the third line, and the rest like.
Right, that's what I was saying. I do like the poem, except for the bears.
Listen, I don't think it's just an image in the third line. I think it is the driving image of the whole poem. They're talking to each other.
Like Toy Story.
Like Toy Story, thank you.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, you have that read.
Okay.
No, I love the last line. I wanted you to love me, but you were too busy laughing. What?
Wow.
Are you guys like being fired?
Sorry.
Oh my God, I'm out of here.
Sorry.
Oh my God. We might have to leave.
Yeah.
I think we have to leave.
All right.
Your motto. I told you once I love you. If anything changes, I'll let you know. John Wayne. I couldn't stay faithful after New Year's Eve. All those aggressive philosophy majors and tequila shot. All my switches flipped, a fuse box shutting down, click by click. Time to wrap it up, kids. Last call, last song. And I'm sitting here in my corner now, hearing you say, what did you want me to do? Punch the guy? No. I wanted you to love me so hard that he never asked me if I would go home with him. I wanted you to love me, but you were too busy laughing.
Nicely done.
So, hello again, dear listeners. I hope those frightening sounds didn't scare you too badly. We have reconvened.
They were scary.
It was scary.
It's very upsetting.
Yep.
I'm not coming back. I am not coming back in that room.
Oh, stop.
I'm going to buy a weighted blanket.
We were kicked out of the studio, and the real fire people actually came, and it all took too long. Nothing tragic happened, but it all took too long for us to reconvene. So we're reconvening now. It's 2 weeks later, ladies and gentlemen, and things have changed. Tim is not in the studio. Marion's in North Carolina. Sam's
I have a totally different haircut.
Jason got rid of all of his hair for summer, and Samantha's with us and dialing in from Portland. So it's a different editorial board, but we're still going to jump into the conversation that we were having on the poem Your Motto by Micheline Maylor. So, all right, folks, what are we thinking?
So I'm going to jump in and say, before we were rudely interrupted by potential catastrophe, I think I was hung up on the teddy bears and then got sort of strung out on this notion that the whole thing was two teddy bears talking to each other. But I'm so glad that the fire drill gave me space. Give me space to come back to this poem with fresh eyes and let that go. Right. So sure, it's teddy bears, but they're only there for a minute.
Yeah.
Really, the scene of the conversation is really back in that party.
Right. I guess I actually came into trying to finish up this podcast with the attitude that we would really pretend that we were bringing that conversation. You know, we wouldn't remind people of that conversation because they've just heard it, right? Our slushies are now hearing us talk about what we said 2 minutes ago. But now that you said what you said, I think I have to be in agreement with you that the same thing happened to me. I never thought the teddy bears were talking to each other, Marion. That was not what I thought. But the teddy bears did bug me. And I talked about that just the fact that it was teddy bears was just too cutesy, too whatever. And this time around, they're not bugging me as much. So that's kind of interesting. That's weird. I love the John Wayne quote, and I love the last lines. And Britt, maybe you could chime in. Sorry to pressure you.
I don't have a problem with the stuffed bears. The only thing that bothers me in this poem and pushes me away is the tequila shot. That's the only thing that's just like, no, it don't work for me.
Yeah, but I do remember talking about that as well. So we don't have to reiterate that conversation. Tequila's shot is like tequila's punch in the face.
Yeah.
But you don't like it. No. Okay.
That's it.
But you like it in general. Okay. What is it that you like? What's moving you?
But you know what?
I feel like a warm anger coming out of this poem. It's like you're talking about your child and you're talking about teddy bears, but at the same time, there's so much anger in your husband not being there for you as he should be.
Yeah.
And I mean, a male is supposed to be like stereotypically the protector, right? And for him to not be able to do that is kind of like you're not even living up to your natural roles. Stereotypically speaking.
I understand. Yeah, well, I mean, and I think really it's not even just that she wants him to muscle up and chest bump with this guy, but she wants the guy to feel so much love from her husband that he wouldn't even ask her. He wouldn't even consider that she'd consider it, right? Isn't that the implication? That they're just not reading as close enough that this dude thinks he might be able to have a chance with her, you know? Yeah.
This week, I'm actually paying a lot more attention to the quote at the top because she says, if I stop loving you, I'll let you know. Or he says that. And then I think this whole poem is her saying, I've stopped loving you. And this is my way of letting you know in more words than one.
Yeah. Or if you don't love me anymore, let me know.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Isn't that a song? That's a song, right? I don't know.
I don't know that song.
I think I wrote it just now.
I just want to jump in and say that I love the way Britt said that. I like that Britt talked about it as warm anger. Right?
Yeah, that's
like
a great
there's
phrase.
Such a sense of frustration and disappointment, but I love that framework of warm anger. And dare I make the pun that we just had a fire drill?
No, don't make that pun.
Can I? Please,
no,
please.
Joe, edit that out.
You can make it.
Well, you can make it. We can choose to
there
not
will
laugh.
be consequences after the
Set
pun.
off your alarm. There is an alarm, a pun alarm.
Yeah, but I think the poem does a really nice job of showing the disconnect between the two people. It's not that he's a bad person, but that his only options are laughing it off or punching the guy. And she wants this other possibility that's not in his realm of experience or capability. And so to kind of like be in this space where it's like, I need this thing that you can't even imagine giving me. I think it's really beautifully constructed. I mean, I don't think the teddy bears are the best metaphor for it, but I do like the relationship between these two people and kind of what happened with this insignificant person at the party who brings out a disparity in their understandings of how love works. I think is really beautiful.
Yeah. It's language is just amazing. Like you just said that he was laughing it off and I took the too busy laughing. I pictured the party and I thought he's not paying any attention to her and he's off laughing with his buddies and this is going down. He doesn't even see, you know, but I mean, either way, it totally works. Right. It's just fascinating. Like what we,
do you ever see the Day Trippers?
I don't recall that. No.
There's a scene where Campbell Scott is sitting up. Parker Posey has gone to a party and she's with Liv Schreiber. And Campbell Scott takes her day planner because it's an old movie and tells her that he gave her his contact information under T. And then when she checks her planner later, he wrote time for a new boyfriend and his phone number. But it's very sexy, like the way that he does it. You're kind of like, oh, that's.
Does she immediately sleep with him? Tell me she immediately sleeps with him.
No, I mean, she doesn't. No, I mean, the whole thing takes place over like 12 hours. So we don't really get to. Yeah, but I highly recommend The Day Trippers.
All right. Well, we do have 2 more, and we're forgetting that we have already spent time on this poem. So maybe are we ready to flip thumbs?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I think so.
Okay. Joe, can they turn their video on just while they flip thumbs? That would be fun.
I want to.
Can you do that, guys, real quick?
Sure.
Turn your cameras on so that I can take a picture of you.
Wait. Can okay.
What?
Sorry. I was going to grab a teddy bear.
Oh. You're a little loopy you're in our time zone. What are you doing? Bailey's in the coffee down
I'm
there?
sorry, my connection's too weak to put the video on.
Okay. Are you texting Joe then, Sam?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, flip thumbs. And it looks like. What'd Sam say?
Yeah, 2 yeses and then nothing.
Sam. Oh, there she is. And it's unanimous. Woohoo!
Also, my thumb, like in a David Lynch movie, bends back.
Look at that. I don't know how you do that. That's amazing.
I have something called hitchhiker's thumb, and my thumb bends back to a right angle without my doing anything.
Wow. Remember how? Do you guys remember that?
That's awesome. Look, mine. I don't know how to remember. How did we used to do this thing? Like, ow, wait, how's this work?
Oh, that's
what's that? How's that go? Like this. Ow. Ow.
Okay.
No,
our listeners cannot see that. Are you serious?
That was an entirely visual joke about the thing you do with your hands.
I don't even know what's happening right now.
That was a terrible joke for radio.
You know, it's only 10:26 a.m. And it feels like she's been on the whiskey. It feels like she's
that's why we keep that's why we keep the cameras off, because this is what happens when we can see each other.
Yeah, if we can see each other, there's too much jocularity. All right, who's reading next? We have this one that Jason. I did that. Was that a yes? That was you?
That was a yes. Yeah. Oh, that's supposed to be anonymous. You're not supposed to know, but yeah, that was.
No. I meant a yes to read it. What is wrong with everyone?
What time zone are you guys in? Is it nighttime?
Jason's also in our time zone. Sam is the only one who is not, and she's behaving.
I'm behaving.
I had asked who would like to read, and then I said, "Oh, Jason, is that a yes?"
Oh! I thought you were chastising me for. I'm sorry. That was just where my head
I will never chastise you for anything.
Well, if Tim's not here and I can't yell at him, then I think someone has to be yelled at. So it's me.
Yeah. It's
okay. Never thought, and there's the N is in parentheses, so it's that kind of diacritical thing where you can read it as never thought or ever thought. Never thought. I've been having home wreck dreams of you. I've got an inside view from our big window. This is a metaphor, of course, not manufacture yet. We stay shrouded in a cloud of disaster. Dust in the loader bucket, the ideal view ruins itself. This dream is all I could pull out of the dark. A toothy, wild punk drunk at the controls. I get ornery when unprotected. I'm the wife at the party, guarded by friends, husbands who have more vigilant shoulders. Some big bully wants me for his own. You have such lovely smiling dimples when you watch. Over there in the corner, you eye the trespasser. He drives right into your marriage. You watch.
Whoa, nicely read. Nicely read.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to jump right into this and say, if you look at the second stanza, third line, says like a toothy wild punk drunk at the controls.
there's something about that like sent me for a loop, which is to say my eye and my ear wanted it to be punch drunk, but it's not. It's a punk drunk, right? So it's punk is the noun who's drunk at the controls. And in that moment, I think this poet, Micheline, really earns my faith, so to speak. Like she's playing with language because it's almost like she anticipated that expectation and then subverted it.
Oh, sure.
Which is a total delight, a total delight.
Yeah.
Right. Which is such a minor little move, but I'm right there with her, loving the play.
You know what's so funny is exactly the line I was going to jump to as well. And I was going to just say, I freaking love it. I love that line because of punk drunk and how that just sounds, a toothy, wild punk drunk at the controls. I get ornery when unprotected. I love that too. That's just that declarative sentence with the word ornery, which is not a word we use enough for sure. And it's a great freaking word. You know, I get ornery when unprotected. Love it.
I think it works well here, but I'm not going to try to bring it back into my own vocabulary. I'm being ornery.
I do use the word ornery.
Really?
I do. I don't hear it enough, but I use it because
it's so Old West to me. It's like Mosey. It's
my ex's dad, right? They used to call him Orn, O-R-N, which is short for ornery. Hey, Orn.
Wow.
Anyway, I love back to this poem, right? I was going to say something. Samantha.
Sorry. I was going to say something I really love about this poem, much like the other one, not to bring that one up again as well, but is that there's so much setting, and I feel so immersed in a setting that is recognizable, but like controlled by like a different situation than like those I'm exactly familiar with. And I think that's really exciting in, relatively short poems to feel so immersed like that.
Yeah, it's very visual as well too, right? Aren't you? You're at the party, 100%.
Yeah.
It's funny because when the poem starts and it's I'm having home wreck dreams of you, I thought that it was about having dreams of the home wrecker, like I'm having fantasies about you wrecking my home. But as you go through the poem, it really seems more that it's a fantasy of the partner or husband or lover being I hate to use this word, but cuckolded it. That it's actually about like, you eye the trespasser, he drives into your marriage and you watch. It's really about this fantasy of the existing partner having his home wrecked with her there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, it's really nicely done. Very well crafted. We stay shrouded in a cloud of disaster. What a line. Right?
Is that, so can I ask about the friends' husbands? Is that friends, husbands, like the party guarded by friends and husbands? Or is it friends apostrophe husbands? Like they're the husbands who belong to her friends?
I saw friends and husbands.
Okay.
Yeah. Only because then there's more description of the husbands, and that's what they get their own line with the more vigilant shoulders.
Can we ask for a comma to go there?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Can I say one thing that's really silly and one thing that might be interesting?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get back on that word ornery. I'm wondering, Jason, I'm going to ask your permission specifically. You know the word hangry?
Oh,
what if
that portmanteau.
What if we started the word hornery?
Hornery? Like when you're ornery because you're horny?
Could we make that happen? I'm hornery. I'm hornery because I haven't had sex in a while.
You have redeemed the word ornery for me. I will hornery actually. That is
hornery. Hornery is brilliant.
Hornery.
That is exactly what's happening in this poem. He's hornery.
Yeah.
He's hornery. He wants him to love her, and he's not paying enough attention, and she's pissed. Hornery.
Yeah. And kind of turns it into this like really interesting sexual fantasy.
And you can be hangry and hornery at the same time. You can be hangry and hornery.
Sure.
If you haven't eaten or had sex, and you need both things. You just need to be an animal for a minute. Okay, here's the other thing that I'm going to say that's a little more like, more. Often I think our slushies will know that very frequently the scenario is one of us finds them and then says to the other one, hey, do you think this would be good for the podcast? And so this happened with me and Marion, and I wasn't even considering reading two poems about the same party, right? I sent it to Marion and just went, pick which one you think will be better for the show, for the episode. Because I just 100%, I don't know why, I'm just being honest, that my perspective was, we can't talk about two poems about the same party in one episode. And Marion was like, no, let's do it. Let's discuss all, there's a third one, guys, that's not about this party, but two poems on the same exact subject. Is that a wise move to submit them when, almost all lit mags say 3 poems max, right? Which is what we say. Mm-hmm. So this person sent in a suite of 3, and 2 are about the same exact thing. Smart or taking a risk? What do you think? Discuss.
Well, it's both. The risk is that that your poem is being read against your other poem. That the readers, and we've had this conversation about many sort of suites or sets of poems where, do the 2 poems that we like repeat and sort of detract from each other, or do the 2 poems create a kind of friction and build and work together? And this usually doesn't come up for people until you get to a manuscript, right? That with a lot of people's books, like there's a particular move or a particular thing that they've mastered that they're really good at. And so it gets each of the individual poems into journals. But then when you actually have the collection, you're like, oh, that again. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, that's the 10th time I've seen that, which is how you get 10 journal publications, but doesn't work for a manuscript. But in this one, I think that they work really nicely against each other. Mm-hmm. I feel more invested as I kind of get to the second party poem, not less. And also, I think that it gives me this sense of how, because they're not the same poem, they're the same party.
Absolutely.
But they're not the same poem.
Absolutely.
And I think that I'm really fascinated by how fascinated the speaker is. Like the speaker is taking forever to unpack what happened at this party.
Uh-huh.
Right? That there's this way in which like the obsessive going over of it and finding the way to understand it and the way to make it visible and the way to kind of express the disconnect. It pulls me in. I'm like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, you said that we don't get to yell at Tim today. What I always yell at Tim about is reading one poem against the other, and very often, they feel similar in this way or that way. But I just was struck by how spot on that this was the exact moment being experienced twice in 2 very different ways.
Yeah. What do you think about the difference between the 2 poems? How do they kind of like open up differently for you? We know that there's the same frustration with the partner for not sort of cock blocking this guy who's already kind of cock blocked.
It's funny that you use that word. This one is more, the physicality of the moment is more apparent for sure. And what I learn about the party, I learned something a different way. What's funny, Jason, is I'm still digging my heels in my way to read, which is not against each other. You know what I mean? Okay. This is another poem about a husband not being there when this woman is being. And this one, the man who's trying to be with her sounds like more of a brute than the first one. somehow, right? Like, so I think maybe that's where I get the physicality too. The vigilant shoulders, a big bully once before his own. I'm seeing it as a more aggressive moment than the first play.
But there's also a kind of erotic sadism that's in this poem. Over there in the corner, you eye the trespasser. He dives right into your marriage, and you watch. Like there's a kind of sadistic revenge porn fantasy in there that I think is really so different than the first poem. And I'm doing it again, but like I think that speaking the position in this poem where the party becomes. The failure becomes eroticized into this revenge fantasy that's erotic, I think is really compelling. And it's surprising to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to say at the end of the first poem, and I, again, noted not comparing the poems, but since they're in the same package, at the end of the first poem, he's laughing. You're too busy laughing. At the end of the second poem, right, as Jason points out, it's this like, he's a voyeur. He's watching this thing happen and not intervening, right? Mm-hmm. And what happens to me is the two poems together help to surface or name a particular kind of emotion that's like very real, very palpable. And, we were joking, calling it, Kathy's new portmanteau of Hornery, but that's exactly right. The two poems together help me to live in this, this emotion that both poems name in a particular way from a slightly different angle. So in that way, it's almost like, 13 ways of looking at Rashomon, right? Like there are different ways, different perspectives in that room of on this emotion. And I kind of dig it. Yeah. I really dig it.
Well, I think it's surprising to me because I'm thinking particularly about like Eve Sedgwick's theorization of the homosocial triangle and cuckold porn, right? And how you kind of usually these structures in which you have men, the dominant way of thinking about these structures in which two men are competing over a woman is that it's really about the relationship between the men, right? That it's really like the men are using the woman as a kind of token between themselves in terms of their like work towards dominance or mastery or connection or whatever. Right. And so for her perspective to be the dominant one and to kind of have constructed this fantasy herself, I think that is really a refreshing perspective to me. I'm like, oh, agreed. I would like to pay more attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Well, slushies and editors, I think we might be able to flip. Oh, Sam, did you fall back asleep?
No, I'm just listening. Sorry. It's so early.
Do you have anything to say, my friend, before we flip thumbs?
No, I feel like I'm content with the setting and I'm liking it. So
okay.
I'm good.
All right. Then let flip thumbs we shall. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Marion is zooming her thumb in and away from the camera. So it's actually a very exciting visual effect as her thumb throbs, enlarging and shrinking in our screen.
We're extending the way slushies. I doubt there was much dramatic tension, but we'll tell you anyway. Yes, it's a yes. Woohoo! So. Marion or Samantha, who wants to do this third one?
I think you go for it, Marion, because my connection is not unstable.
She's going to blame her connection. Right. She's blaming the rain in Portland.
Yes.
All right. Okay, well. All right. So this is Micheline's third poem, Micheline Maylor's She Tells Me. She tells me, the toilet in the basement has belched up and over its intestinal wreckage, drained, stained the floor like a party goer, dunked up and shaken sober. In my new office, I've become the scapegoat for my grandmother's guilt. I've become a beacon of success, I hardly pick up the phone anymore. She tells of irrelevant relatives, things I walked away from. I tell her, you taught the art of dehydration. I was so parched. Didn't I tell you I was a fern in the desert, a plate spinner with thin skin and shoeless? Didn't I warn you from the start?
Ooh, thank you very much. Slushies, while we do some thinking, allow me to remind you that you can look at all of these poems before you listen, while you listen, after you listen. But if you want to see them on the virtual page on screen, they will be on our website at pbqmag.org, and then just click on podcast. And sometimes if you're quick enough on the draw, you'll see it. This one will be the highlighted episode. But I think I'm remembering to tell you that right now because the title is She Tells Me, comma. Not she tells me, comma, but she tells me, and then there's a comma. And I just thought that was interesting, and you should know.
Hey, what does the phrase dunked up mean? I've never seen that before.
Like you grab them by their head, dunk them in the toilet, and pull them up, maybe?
Yeah. Dunked up and shaken sober.
I think Britt's got it. Yeah.
Not that I have any personal experience. I would know that.
I love a plate spinner with thin skin. I love that there's kind of like a circus quality to that.
Uh-huh. I was a fern in the desert, which is inexplicable, right? You can't have a fern in the desert. A plate spinner with thin skin and shoeless. I love that ending.
I keep trying to work out the relationship between the she and the I. And I don't know. Does she represent the family that she left behind? Does she represent the?
I think it's the grandmother's guilt. Is it the grandmother?
I thought she and I were sort of in some kind of relationship or friendship or colleagueship, and she was trying to relate to the I's family situation. I thought they had different relatives.
I hear you. So the she tells me is already introducing. The she says the toilet in the basement has backed up, right? Has belched up.
Yeah.
Right.
She says she tells of irrelevant relatives things I walked away from. Is that just relatives in general or specifically those relatives?
Oh.
I'm not mad about being disoriented.
Right.
I love all of the individual pieces.
Right. Could we ever explicate you taught the art of dehydration? I was so parched.
Yes.
Could
I think that is like on the nose about like feeling unloved, right? Like craving warmth, craving connection, and not being hugged or not being held, but being denied, right? That sense of withholding is a kind of dehydration, right? So that's, it's sort of, that's my reading of it. And it's almost an immediate reading, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the you is the she, right? You taught the art of dehydration. I was so parched. So you taught me how to live and be dehydrated, just live with my dehydration. Because, that's the fern in the desert too, right? The fern would not be able to subsist in the desert. Mm-hmm. So
I'm starting to read this differently. And I feel like she tells me, and then there's the first two stanzas and almost like a pause. And then she tells me more. And that's when she goes into the relatives. And so it's sort of like two she tells me sets of things.
I actually thought that the first two stanzas is about the other person telling her things. But the third stanza, she says, she tells me this and that. And then I start talking and I tell her this, and the rest is about the author talking about what she told her afterwards. But then what she says wouldn't make a lot of sense. I'm not sure.
I mean, what I do think the sort of the disorientation is that it brings you into a kind of code where the things that they're saying to each other make a kind of sense based on a really long shared history that's very difficult for us to access as a reader. And I think that might be the way that the poem is working. I mean, because like, didn't I warn you from the start? Well, we don't know. I mean, right, that gestures towards this really long history that these people have, that in the length of this poem, we're only kind of like limbing the surface of, or we're seeing like the very small tip of an iceberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also, in some ways, not in like a Mean Girls way at all, but want to have some allegiance or align myself with one of these speakers. And so I think some of my discomfort, like a happy discomfort, comes from not like having even footing, and like my weight keeps like going back and forth while I'm reading this.
And I another thing I think we should point out, I've become a beacon of success. I hardly pick up the phone anymore. I love that makes me smile lightly. Like that would make you, a successful person isn't bothered by the ringing phone and answering to people, right? That's what that literally means. I don't answer to others, right? But then that feels like this is the facade, and who she really is a fern in the desert, a plate spinner with thin skin and shoeless. I love that. That's where we funnel down to.
It's funny, the way that I originally saw that, my grandma calls me like 100 times a day, literally.
Yeah.
So eventually I just like stop picking up the phone because I know she's going to say the same thing, and it's not like an emergency or anything.
Right.
But now that you say that makes way more sense. And I was like personalizing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I pick up the phone for my grandma. Don't hate me, listeners.
But not 100 times a day. 100 times. Just 20. Yeah, one time she was on the phone with her grandma and she had it on speaker, and I was coming in the door and it sounded like Brittany was talking to herself.
I do that, so understandable.
Like really, really talking to herself.
What I'm wondering though with this poem, like, is it intentional, the confusion about the she and the I?
I mean, confusion in the sense of like, are they the same person, or the confusion in terms of we don't know who they are?
Yeah, I mean, like kind of all our heads going around, like in terms of like the poet's intentions. Like, do you think she wants us to feel that confusion?
I don't think it's necessarily a confusion. I think it's like a disorientation.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Jason. I don't think she's intentionally being confusing. I think it is simply the office worker. I'm not as confused by the relationship as I am the scapegoat for my grandmother's guilt. I think that my read is that she's posing at the office, but she really feels like she tells us in the last stanza.
All right.
Yeah. And this coworker just tells her annoying, mundane things about, toilets and irrelevant relatives. You know what I mean? And that she's in her head. That kind of person.
Definitely.
Oh, when she says things I walked away from, could those things be referring to her own irrelevant relatives?
I think so. Okay. The person is nattering on about her relatives and stuff, and our speaker has walked away from her relatives.
Okay. It's so weird that she would describe them as things, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
There must be a lot of pain there. Or it's just like things.
It could be relatives and things.
Yeah.
I walked away from, right.
You're right.
Let's see, who hasn't spoken enough about this? Marion, putting on my teacher hat. Who haven't we heard from today? We did hear from you, but not as much.
The conversation about the difference between disorientation and confusion, right? If the reader's only confused, right, that feels like the poem's a little out of control, but it feels like purposeful disorientation here. But I'm not quite sure I understand, and that's funny, right? How the disorientation serves the mood of the poem or the idea or the energy, right? And it can be, and it's fascinating hearing the 20 different ways it can be read, right? That it's the she is the grandmother, or the she is some other speaker, right? Or the she and the I are the same person, different aspects of the subjectivity, right? And so it sort of slides for me in an interesting way, but I'm not 100% on it yet, right? And then of course my editorial brain is like, what's the rereading like? What's the rereading like when I come back to it? If I read it again, is it richer, deeper, funkier? Are there more nuances that emerge for me? And I'm just a little ambivalent about it,
I can say this conversation makes me have no disorientation or confusing. I'm like firmly in my reading now, and secondly, I think it's so interesting what you just said, Marion. When we're training new people to read with us, we say, do you want to read it again? So I'll ask you that. You're saying, what will this be like? Like you did read it once 3 weeks ago, right? And we never got to discuss it on air, right? And do you want to read it again? If
you were asking me personally, do I want to reread it again?
Yep, I'm asking you the very simple question. If you happen to this whole,
like out loud, or like as a reader?
No, just as a reader. Again, I'm taking this all the way to the most basic thing of when I'm teaching students. All right, so I say, do you want to read it again?
Come right back to you and say no. Oh, right. But the no is not because I'm not interested in it. The no is because it's already left such a strong impression on me. It's almost like, sipping a really fine glass of wine, that I have this aftertaste in my mouth that's enough, right? Like it's baffling and curious. And as somebody who reads a ton of literature, contemporary lit mags, right? Sometimes that's enough for me, that the poem stops me, puts itself in me enough that the nuances are complex, that it's just with me, and I don't necessarily need to go back and reread it. For me, that can be satisfying, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, right? So if I say no, it's not because I'm not thoroughly in love with the poem. It's just because it's actually enough to be in this space.
Well, that's the other thing we say to people. Do you read are you satisfied? Do you have, when you're done reading it, you go, right? And have that little moment of, so, okay. I often say, do you feel like you were punched in the stomach?
It can also be a moment of,
it's very different than it.
But listen, I'm sorry. I want to interrupt that though, to say it doesn't have to be an epiphany, and it doesn't have to be total satisfaction to be powerful, right?
Sure.
Like it can be like, what? Right? Like that, like a discomfort can sometimes be the seat of the yes too, right? Like, I don't know.
No, I just love all these metaphors because I often say, do you feel like you were punched in the stomach in a good way? Right? At the end of a poem.
Yeah.
So now we have a glass of wine, a punch in the stomach. It's somewhere in between those. Because you're
There's just no good way to be punched in the stomach.
Oh, I think there might be.
Well,
metaphorically, like when I'm doing that exaltation of breath, that like, you've read stuff and made that sound, even if you didn't make it aloud. You know what I'm saying? Metaphorically going.
Yeah, but when you're being punched in the stomach, you're going,
Well, I said metaphorically. I would like to actually drink the wine, but not actually be punched in the stomach. Marion, I was immediately.
Wait a second.
Your whole wine thing had me back. Your wine thing had me in Portland at that bar with that wine guy.
Yeah.
Because every single thing we sipped, you said, I love what's in my mouth after.
That's what she said.
She really did. She'd go, I love what this does to my mouth when I'm done drinking it. That was her thing with everything. Oh, taste your mouth. Taste your mouth. I'm being Marion, right? Can you see her do that?
Wait, but I have to tell you what's going on for me, is this idea of having a mouthful of wine and somebody punching you and then spitting wine everywhere, right? Like that's the that the spit take is the icon.
A spit take is a whole different thing. You do the taste your mouth. Taste your mouth. So you can read this poem.
Yep.
What will we call this episode? My God.
What's in your mouth?
What's in your mouth?
What's in your mouth after?
Oh my God.
Are we ready to vote, peeps?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do it. Turn your cameras on.
Okay.
Wait, hold on.
About to see you. We're about to see it. Here's Jason. And here's Marion. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Flip thumbs. And it's in. Woohoo. Wait, stay there. All right. Yay. Micheline Maylor, 3 for 3. Woohoo.
Well done. Exciting.
What? Dead air? What just happened? That's not us at the end. Thank you so much to Micheline Maylor for allowing us to read this work. And
way to go.
3 for 3 is always poems. Awesome. Anybody have anything they want to share about what they're doing, reading, seeing, watching, drinking?
I can't turn off Stranger Things.
Oh, I haven't turned it on for exactly that reason.
I'm here.
Yeah. Are you waiting till you're with John again, Mare, to watch? Are you saving it?
Yeah, we're gonna binge that together. Yep.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I want to.
Wow.
How fun! You're gonna love it.
I should.
I think that's one of the few things when I pull my students at the beginning of a course and try to find some cultural commonality. Stranger Things has been winning. Stranger Things wins over Game of Thrones. There's still not anything that everybody has watched, though. So it's a bummer.
It used to be Titanic.
Well, it used to be easier to find common things. Now, we're just consuming too many. On too many
everyone watched the same movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not so much. It used to
everyone watched the same movies.
Nope, not so much. Not anymore. So anybody else? Or should we wrap her up?
I will say I went to see Booksmart. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but I really liked it.
Yeah, I loved it. Did you see it yet, Brett?
No, I have not.
Oh, the whole time I was watching it, I couldn't wait to watch it again. It was one of those feelings because I was laughing so hard I was missing the next joke. Mm-hmm. Right, Sam?
Yeah, it was great. I was so into it. I love how it put the high school movies of my generation of high school to shame. I would walk out of those movies feeling like I am not fit enough. I am not cool enough. And then I watched this movie and I was like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the big Michael Cera movie? Superbad. This, Superbad was so wonderful and so much better than I went in thinking it would be. Right. Mm-hmm. And then this blows Superbad out of the water for just smartness, brilliance, characters, all of it. It's very good. It's female Superbad. Mm-hmm. And it is all, is written by Olivia Wilde and it's very female centric, actually. The film.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
Recommend it for everyone.
Yep. Okay. All right then. Well, when you're done watching movies, remember to keep reading. And let us know how we're doing. And thank you very much. Woohoo!
Woohoo.
Okay, I'm going to go because I have to go to class. I'll see you guys.
See ya.
Have a great time. Have a great time.
Thanks,
Bye, Samantha. Bye. Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Oh my God. All right. Love you guys. Mwah. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Jason.
Bye.
That's actually going to be longer than an